COPAIR organized a virtual conference, Contours of National Cyber Strategy, Technical and Policy Perspective on October 17, 2020. Center of Pakistan and International Relations hosted an online international virtual conference to gather insights from the technical experts and policymakers related to cybersecurity from Australia, European countries, USA and Libya. Eminent policymakers, academics and cyber experts attended the 2-hour-long session. This session was part of the series of conferences COPAIR is hosting this month on cybersecurity. Awais Sadiq was the moderator of the session. He commenced the session with the introduction of COPAIR.
Ms. Amna Malik is the president of the Center of Pakistan International Relations. Khalid Latif is the advisor for the Center on International Affairs. I'm the project coordinator, and we also have Syed Mushahid with us, who's a research associate. So, moving on towards the...
Paul Rosenzweig from Washington, D.C., enlightened the audience about America's cyber strategy. His topic of speech was Defending Forward and Persistent Engagement, America's Cyber Strategy.
I appreciate very much the opportunity to join you today. It's really quite an honor for me to be invited to speak with you. Good morning from Washington, D.C. Good evening in Pakistan. My topic today is America's cyber strategy, defend forward and persistent engagement. That strategy derives from a paradox. The paradox is that the United States has greater cyber capacity and capability than almost any other nation in the world. Perhaps it is preeminent, but it is certainly in the top ranks in terms of our capabilities and capacities to execute in the cyber domain, both commercially and as a government, offensively and defensively.
Anush Mushtaq, hailing from Australia, articulated the chronology of establishing a national cyber strategy by focusing on the case of Australian cyber defence.
Thank you, Mr. Siddiqui, for inviting me to present on Australia's cybersecurity strategy. In June this year, the Australian government released Australia's Cybersecurity Strategy 2020. The strategy is an update of the previous Cybersecurity Strategy 2016. It is largely a continuation of the work commenced under the 2016 strategy and addresses themes common across many national cybersecurity strategies. The updated strategy continues most of the focus areas from the 2016 strategy, but is notable for more directly calling out state actors and state-sponsored adversaries, and for a significant change in approach to protect national critical infrastructure. The strategy allows almost 3 times more funding per annum than the previous 2016 strategy. It also calls for rapid expansion of personnel in the nation's cybersecurity agencies and identifies a new regulatory regime to enforce cybersecurity standards for public and private sector providers of national critical infrastructure.
Zoe Debs, an insider threat analyst from USA, talked about mitigating insider threat and implementing cybersecurity policy.
Right, so based on my background, where I'm coming from, I'm going to discuss mitigating insider threat through cybersecurity policy and not just practices. When Daniel Ellsberg copied and exfiltrated the Pentagon Papers in 1969, he just used a photocopier and brought the pages out in boxes. And Americans' understanding of that at the time was more based in treason and espionage. The concept of insider threat wasn't really part of the public lexicon. But when Edward Snowden stole classified information from the NSA, he brought it out on a thumb drive the size of your finger. So it's no coincidence that our concept of insider threat has evolved dramatically in the past few decades that's coincided with the rapid evolution of the cyber landscape. Because insider threat is such a relatively new concept for corporations and governments, it has only recently been acknowledged for what it is holistically.
Francisco Fonseca, a senior technical expert on cybersecurity from Portugal, shared his shrewd insight on understanding the cybersecurity posture of critical infrastructure through a technical approach.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Siddiq. So, my name is Francisco Fonseca, as you know, and I'm responsible for the National Cybersecurity Area at BIT site. In that area, what we do is working with countries in order to help them monitoring the national critical infrastructure. We currently have 38 countries working with us, and today I'll be sharing with you what we are doing with those countries. First of all, a quick explanation about what the rating is, because this will be important. So the rating is a number we provide to any organization in the world. Private, governmental, it's a number that goes from 250 to 900, where 250 means basic security posture, 900 means advanced security posture, so the higher the better. This rating is calculated based on information that exists around the world. It's non-intrusive, so we don't need to deploy any software nor any hardware on the organizations, and it's continuous, like the stock market. So every day there's a new rating, and it's based on objective data. It's not based on questionnaires, perceptions I've heard, so it's objective data. The interesting part of the rating is that allows anyone to talk cybersecurity. So non-experts, everyone will understand the rating. Now, how is this rating calculated? The rating is calculated using information. So we use 120 different data sources.
Harris Khan from the USA briefed on policy orientation for securing critical infrastructure from cyber threats.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I just want to be upfront, be grateful and thankful for inviting me to this panel of esteemed speakers. One needs to very define what is Pakistan's nuclear status. One is the power generation, and the other is weaponization. Now, if I could understand Mr. Abbas's question clearly, he was actually talking about the threat to the both of them. And the reason is,
exactly.
The reason is behind that Pakistan's about their three presently nuclear reactors, which are under the safeguard of NPT, which is the Canop in Karachi, south of Pakistan, and they're building Canop 2 and Canop 3. And then there's Chashma 1 and Chashma 2. These will eventually end up being 5 nuclear power plants. They come under the NPT treaty. So they're safeguarded.
Mohammed Ben Nasir, from Libya, explained the procedural dimension of the building a national cybersecurity framework.
And thank you, Sadiqi, for introducing me. My name is Mohammed Ben Nasir. I came from Libya. I'm doing a PhD, and recently I have graduated, and I have passed and get my PhD. And I'd like to share my research idea. To give some introduction, what's capacity building? Capacity building is viewing as a mechanism to bridge the gap between poor governments or poor governance and considering as a not suitable level of state capacity to deliver its main functions. Cybersecurity capacity building also viewing as the mechanism or transformation process connected to technological and political and social development were constantly growing these years. As you may, or all of you, seen what's happened in Arab Spring, what's happened with social media, how this affects the security and stability of these countries.
Amna Malik, the president of Center of Pakistan and International Relations, COPAIR, concluded the session with her recommendations. She also extended her gratitude to the diverse group of panelists and participants and encouraged the youngsters of Pakistan to pursue their careers in field of cybersecurity.
Thank you very much, Wes, and thank you very much all the participants. I really appreciate and noted down all the recommendations. And inshallah, COPAIR is working on a comprehensive national cybersecurity strategy and policy, keeping in mind all the recommendations given by you and before and our previous studies as well. And I think this is a very important subject for a developing country like Pakistan. And COPAIR always try to initiate different narratives for Pakistan. And this year, our basic work was related to that emerging technologies should be implemented in our national security policy. And artificial intelligence, we did a number of we work on number of events. And also we recommended it to the National Security Division, our policies and recommendations. Cybersecurity is also another very important perspective because it is not only affecting the government and defense institutions, but it is also affecting our economy as well. And especially we come across Pakistan is having a middle class economy, and there are many SMEs which are really affecting by this cyber attacks. So it's not the issue of at the national level, but also at the individual level, people are facing difficulties.
Presently, there is a dire need to formulate a national cyber strategy for Pakistan, and it is possible with the joint collaboration of public as well as private sector. Securing cyberspace from foreign threats and overcoming the vulnerabilities in the domain remained focus of the COPAIR series of conferences this month. Focus of the